He gave me a quick peck on the forehead, just like every other time, fast and not really paying attention, as if it was something to cross off his daily routine. "I'll be back for dinner," he told me, picking up his golf bag from the entryway. "Don't stay up if I run late. You know Gary always stretches things out at the clubhouse." I stood by the kitchen window with my coffee cup, watching him put everything into the trunk of his silver Lexus. After 44 years together, I still paid attention to how he got things done. Straightforward and no extra effort. The type of guy who got right to the point. The car started up, he reversed out of the driveway, and then he was off, turning the corner on Cedar Lane, the same as he had on countless other Saturdays. But that morning felt off somehow. Not bad, just a little strange, the way something familiar suddenly seems out of place after being the same for so long. I drank the last of my coffee and put the mug in the sink. The house felt empty, way too still. Our daughter was out in Seattle these days, and she called every Sunday. Our son was teaching English over in Europe, mailing postcards that showed up 2 months after he sent them. The quiet used to get to me. Now it was like another part of this 4-bedroom colonial house we bought back when the kids were little, and our plans revolved around playgrounds and birthday parties. I was cleaning the counter when I heard a sound. It was a soft buzzing, steady and coming from the living room. It was his phone. Robert had forgotten his phone on the side of the recliner, screen down, shaking against the fabric. I went over without rushing. I wasn't worried about anything, not at that point. I planned to move it out of the way or maybe send him a message from my own phone to let him know. But as I grabbed it, the screen turned on with a new message showing. "Missing you already. Can't wait for Tuesday." The contact name was Golf Pro Brian. I looked at those words until they didn't make sense anymore. Golf Pro Brian. Robert didn't know any golf pro named Brian. He'd been going out with the same buddies for 15 years, Gary and Frank and that retired dentist I could never recall the name of. No Brian, no pro, no scheduled lessons. I placed the phone back down gently, like it could break if I wasn't careful. Then I grabbed it again. The code to unlock it was our anniversary, September 12th. He'd kept it the same all this time, never saw a reason to switch it. I entered the numbers without shaking, and just like that, the phone unlocked, opening up something I'd been unaware of for a long time. The messages dated back 5 months. Nothing too direct or rude, but it was clear what was going on. "Thinking of you. Lunch was great. I wish we could spend more time." The name wasn't Brian, it was Michelle. He'd put her in his contacts under a fake name that seemed almost smart in how simple it was. I went through the whole conversation, reading each part like it was from a script I wasn't part of. There were private jokes I didn't get, mentions of places to eat I'd never visited, a picture of her holding a wine glass, her nails done in coral, a slim gold bracelet around her wrist. She had pretty hands, that's what came to mind. She had pretty hands, and my husband had been touching them. I set the phone back on the recliner in the exact spot he'd left it. Then I went into the bathroom, shut the door, and looked at my reflection in the mirror. 68 years old, with gray hair I'd given up coloring 10 years back, wrinkles by my mouth that showed every happy moment and every quiet one. I looked like a woman who was fine with how things turned out. But I wasn't. Not deep down. I'd just stopped bringing up the hard stuff. That night he got home smelling like the outdoors and beer, just like normal. He gave me a peck on the cheek, took a plate from the oven, and sat at the kitchen table to eat the roast I'd cooked. "How was your day?" I asked. "Good one. Got an 80. Nearly got an eagle on the 7th hole." I watched him as he ate, how he sliced his meat into even pieces, how he dabbed his mouth after every third bite. 44 years of observing this man, and all of a sudden it was like looking at him as if I didn't know him. "That's great," I said. He didn't pick up on how dull my tone was. He never did. The next morning, I drove to the address I'd seen in his phone. It was marked as Tuesday appointment in his schedule, a townhouse in Westport, around 20 minutes from where we lived. The area had stone paths and uniform mailboxes, the sort of spot people pick when they're looking for a fresh start. I parked on the other side of the street and sat there. I wasn't sure what I'd find. maybe nothing at all. Maybe I hoped I'd realize I was mistaken. At 10:25, a woman came out to the front steps to water her plants. She was younger than me, maybe in her mid-50s, with reddish-brown hair and a white cotton top. She carried herself like someone who never had to hurry through mornings to get kids ready and out. She seemed content. I headed back home without making any stops, gripping the steering wheel hard. When I arrived, I brewed some tea and sat at the kitchen table, the same one where we'd signed for the house, helped the kids with schoolwork, had our fights and makeups, and gotten older side by side. I thought about the woman in the white top, her coral nails and her plants and her townhouse with the stone path, and I thought about all those Tuesday meetings I'd never asked about, all the evenings he stayed late at work, all the golf outings that went overtime. I didn't shed a tear. I was too worn out for that. Instead, I pulled open the drawer with our home records and began searching. Over the next week, I turned into an investigator in my own world. I found bank statements with payments to restaurants I didn't recognize. I found a receipt from a jewelry shop from 2 months ago, but no new jewelry had come my way. I found a hotel booking for a weekend he said was a business trip in New Haven. Every find hit me hard, like a weight settling in. But I didn't bring it up with him, not right away. I wanted the whole story clear before I spoke. On Wednesday, I phoned my sister. Janet had gone through a divorce 20 years ago, back when folks still talked about it quietly in social circles. She'd made it through, she'd started fresh, and she never said she regretted walking away. I need a lawyer, I told her, a good one. She didn't push for details, she just gave me a name. Rebecca Holt, specializes in family matters, 30 years on the job, office in the city center. I set up a meeting for Friday. The evening before seeing Rebecca, Robert came home with flowers, yellow roses, the ones I like best. He placed them on the counter with a grin that used to get to me. Just because, he said. I put them in a vase and said thanks. I made his favorite meal, I laughed at his comments about the TV host's bad hair, and when he kissed me before bed, I returned it. But once he was asleep, I stayed up for hours, looking at the ceiling, hearing his steady breathing. Rebecca's office was on the 3rd floor of a brick building close to the courthouse. She was a short woman with keen eyes and a solid grip when she shook hands, the type who got straight to business. "Tell me the whole thing," she said. So I did. The phone, the texts, the townhouse, the receipts. I showed her the copies I'd made, the dates I'd noted, the schedule I'd put together like a puzzle I wished I'd never started. When I was done, she sat back. "You've done your homework. I've had time on my hands." She nodded. "What are you after, Margaret?" The question surprised me. Nobody had asked what I wanted in a long time. Not Robert, not the kids, not even me. "I want the house," I said after a moment. "I want to be secure, and I want him to know I'm not clueless." Rebecca gave a small smile. "We can make that happen." We spent 2 hours discussing choices. How to split assets, retirement funds, the house, which was under both our names but paid for with money from my mom's inheritance. She went over what could happen if he fought it, what if he didn't. She covered talks to settle, court cases, and agreement deals. By the time I walked out, I had a feeling I hadn't had in weeks. Not joy, not ease, just a clear head. The confusion was gone, and I could see what was next. That weekend, I put new flowers in the garden, marigolds and zinnias, pops of orange and pink among the leaves. Robert was in the den with the golf on TV, sound cranked up high. "You're out there a lot lately," he said when I came in. "It's good for me, the outdoors." He turned back to the screen. I went back to my preparations. On Tuesday, I told him I was going to see my sister for a few days. He hardly glanced up from his coffee. "Say hi to Janet for me," he said. I didn't fix his mistake. I didn't mention Janet was in Florida with her grandkids. I just packed a light bag and drove to a hotel near Rebecca's office, where I spent 3 days filling out forms, sorting papers, and getting ready for a talk I'd been practicing in my mind for 2 weeks. When I got back, he was at the kitchen table holding his phone. His face looked drained. "Where were you, actually?" he asked. I put my bag down without hurrying. I said visiting Janet. "Janet is in Florida," he said. "I called her." I didn't react. "Then I guess you have your answer." He got up, his chair sliding back on the floor. "Margaret, what's this about?" I looked right at him, really looked at the man I'd shared a life with for 44 years, the man I'd had kids with, the man I'd trusted, and I felt empty. No anger, no hurt, just a blank spot where feelings used to be. "I know about Michelle," I said. He went white. His mouth moved, but nothing came out. "I've known for weeks," I went on. "I've read the texts, I've gone to her place, I've met with a lawyer. Margaret, let me just tell me what happened." "There's no need. You picked this. Now I'm picking too." He dropped back into the chair, hands shaking. "It wasn't serious. She was just, I don't know, she made me feel young." "And how did I make you feel?" He looked puzzled. "What? In all these years, Robert, did you ever consider what I needed or wanted? Or was I just the one who ran the house, took care of the kids, and never asked for more?" He stayed quiet. He didn't need to say anything. I sat across from him, keeping my voice even. "I'm not turning this into a fight. I'm not pulling the kids in or telling folks at church, but I am looking out for me. The house stays with me, the money we saved gets split even, and you need to find a new place." His eyes got big. "You're throwing me out?" "I'm asking you to go." "That's different." He stared like he was facing a stranger, someone unfamiliar. Maybe he was. Maybe I was showing him the side of me I'd kept back all those years, the one with her own ideas, her own power, her own boundaries. "I never wanted to cause you pain," he said softly. "I know," I replied. "That's what makes it harder." He moved out 3 days later with 2 suitcases and a bag for clothes, loaded them into the Lexus, and stood in the driveway like a guy without direction. "I'll call you," he said. "About the details." I nodded. "Rebecca will take care of it." He paused, like there was more to add, but there wasn't. He got in, turned on the car, and left. I stayed on the porch until he turned the corner and was gone. Then I went in, shut the door, and let out a long breath, like I'd been holding it for months. The house was still, but now the quiet didn't weigh on me. It felt open. Space to relax, space to reflect, space to recall who I was before I was just a wife. That evening, I fixed a basic meal for myself, soup and bread at the kitchen table with a book open next to my plate. I'd forgotten how much I enjoyed reading. Somehow, I'd stopped finding time for it. My daughter called that night. "Mom, Dad said you two are splitting up. Are you all right?" "I'm better than I've been in a long time," I told her. There was a quiet moment. Then she said gently, "I'm proud of you." Those words meant more than any sorry from Robert. In the weeks after, I found parts of myself I'd lost track of. I signed up for a painting course at the local center. I met friends for lunch I hadn't caught up with in months. I moved around the living room chairs and put up new curtains in the bedroom. Little shifts, but each felt like taking back control. One day, I came across a box in the attic I hadn't touched in years. It had letters, photos, stubs from shows and events. Proof of a woman who used to have big goals, who laughed freely, who thought the future was something to chase after. I sat on the attic floor with all those old things around me, and I cried. Not over Robert, not the marriage, but the years I'd spent holding myself back so he could stand out. When the crying ended, I brought the box down and put it on the kitchen table. I went through each thing one at a time, holding pieces of my history like surprises I'd overlooked. At the bottom was a photo of me at 23 on a beach in California, my hair messy from the breeze, my smile big and real. I hardly knew her anymore, but I wanted to connect with her again. The divorce wrapped up 7 months later. No big scenes, no court fights. Robert agreed to the papers without arguing, took the deal Rebecca set up, and got an apartment on the other side of town. I heard from people we both knew that Michelle broke it off soon after he left. She wanted the thrill of something secret, not the work of a real partnership. I felt nothing about it. No win, no sympathy, just calm as one part ended. On the day everything was official, I drove to the beach. Not the exact one in the photo, but similar. I kicked off my shoes and walked by the water, feeling the cool waves on my feet. The sun was going down, turning the sky orange and pink, and I thought about all the evenings I'd let pass while I was focused on being steady for someone else. I thought about the woman in the white top with her coral nails and plants. I wondered if she was content now, or if she ever had been, or if being content was just something we kept after without getting it. And I thought about me, 68 years old, divorced, on my own, but not alone, not like before. When I got home that night, I poured a glass of wine and sat on the back porch watching the stars come out bit by bit. The garden was full of color. The marigolds I'd planted months back were still vibrant, still growing strong. I lifted my glass to nothing specific. To starting over, I said. The night responded with crickets chirping and a soft wind that carried the scent of jasmine. If you're reading this, maybe it makes sense to you. Maybe you've gone through something similar. Maybe you've spent years fading into the background, telling yourself that putting up with things quietly was the same as having harmony. But it's not. Harmony isn't about staying quiet. Harmony is recognizing your value and not settling for less. I spent 44 years hoping someone would notice me. Now I notice myself. And that's plenty. That's more than plenty. If this story hits home for you, don't hold it in. Pass it on to someone who could use it. Add a comment. Share what happened to you. We've been silent too long. It's time to speak up.